Hello, my name is Sean Jamie and I'm a civil engineer with AECOM. In this video I will talk about the design concepts at Broadway as they relate to the rail alternatives. If you haven't done so already, please visit the video clips that describe the 4 alternative rail profiles currently being studied in Redwood City. Those can be seen here. To access the exhibits at Broadway, please locate the blue graphic in the middle portion of the table underneath the Broadway label. This will take you to the alternative selection screen, providing you with 5 icons to choose from: alternative 1, 2, 3, an additional option for alternative 3, and alternative 4. The first icon takes you to an exhibit that shows the grade separation at Broadway for alternative 1, which provides a full grade separation for all modes of travel: motor vehicles, pedestrians, and bikes. Here we can see we have several options to click on: full screen mode, download, and section view. First, let's look at full screen mode. Click on this button in the lower right. This will put you into full screen mode, where you will be able to use your mouse to zoom in and pan to look at the plan or the profile in greater detail. In this alternative, at Broadway, the tracks will be raised 24 feet, as can be seen on the profile. The road will remain at grade, as depicted by the gray color, roadway pavement, at grade, and the light blue sidewalk, which is sidewalk at grade. The elevation created by raising the tracks provides the vertical separation needed for the road to pass under the proposed rail structure without impact to any mode of connectivity. The blue here will depict the station platforms, and this reddish color will depict pedestrian bike ramps that will serve as a connection between the platforms and Broadway. As part of the grade separation project, Broadway between El Camino Real and Perry will be updated to provide an 11-foot lane, 5-foot bike lane, 7-foot parking lane, and 5-foot landscaping areas along the roadway in both directions. The bike lanes will now be continuous from Aguelo Street all the way to El Camino Real. Perry Street will be updated to show the two 14-foot shared lanes in each direction with an 8-foot sidewalk along the west side. To exit full screen mode, click the X. Now back at the main view, we'll be able to look at the section cut views. These are shown in blue with arrows on each end. The arrows show the direction in which the view will be looking. These are the links to the roadway section cuts or profile views. For example, on Broadway, you will be looking east towards Aguelo Street from underneath the proposed structure. Here you will see that this is at grade, and we will be providing a 10-foot sidewalk, 11-foot lane, 5-foot bike lane, and 11-foot through lane in both directions. Here, we will be looking from the station platform south towards Broadway. Here we can see how much the tracks are being elevated. Lastly, you can click on the PDF to download a copy of this so that you may view it later. Once you are done viewing this alternative, you may click on the X and head back to the alternative selection screen. The second icon takes you to an exhibit that shows the grade separation at Broadway for alternative 2. Let's get started in full screen mode. Alternative 2 will raise the rails as well as depress the road to fully achieve grade separation. The rails will be raised about 21 feet, as can be seen here on the profile, and Broadway will be depressed roughly 4 feet, shown here on the profile in purple and depicted on the plan view in this purple color, as well as the dark blue for the depressed sidewalk. The lane layouts and bike lanes are the same as from the previous example. On the profile, you can see that the road begins its descent at the intersection of Broadway and Perry Street, dips under the bridge, and ends its ascent just past Marshall Street intersection. Note that this profile is exaggerated 5 times in the vertical axis. This allows us to see the elevation differences between the roadway, the existing ground, and the tracks more easily. There will also be some grading at Perry Street and California Street to match Broadway. On Aguelo, the lowering of Broadway may have some impacts to the buildings on the corner. Pedestrian ramps may be needed in order to maintain access to the buildings. Let's take a look at the profile for Aguelo Street. Remember, a profile is like a longitudinal section along the center line of the road. This profile shows the road will begin its descent about 70 feet north of the intersection, match the lowered Broadway, and end its ascent about 80 feet south of the intersection. The Broadway section, you'll be looking east on Broadway towards Aguelo, underneath the proposed structure. You will see now that their road will be depressed from the existing ground. Our section at the platform will show us looking south from the platform towards Broadway, and we can still see the rail and platforms being elevated. If you would like to download this so that you may view later, click on this icon. If not, let's return to the alternative selection screen. The third icon takes you to an exhibit that shows the grade separation at Broadway for alternative 3. Like in the previous example, alternative 3 will raise the tracks and depress the road to fully achieve grade separation. The rail will be raised roughly 10 feet, and the road will be depressed nearly 17 feet at Broadway. Connectivity for all modes of travel will be maintained. As we can see on the plan, the lane layouts and bike lanes are the same as in the previous example. Here on the profile, as depicted in purple, we can see that Broadway will begin its descent 220 feet east of El Camino Real, dip under the bridge, and end its descent on Marshall Street near the Warren Street intersection. Some property may be acquired to accommodate this design. The potential property acquisition areas can be seen in red. The green dots, shown here in the legend, to depict driveway modifications, can be seen here at Commercial Way to adjust for the elevation change of Perry Street, and for the driveway here for the elevation change on Marshall Street. Now let's take a look at the profile on Aguelo Street. The road will begin its descent just past Bradford Street to match Broadway nearly 11 feet below grade, and end its ascent just before the Winslow Street intersection. On Perry Street, the descent will begin at Commercial Way, and then meet the elevation of the depressed Broadway about 8 feet below grade. On California Street, the profile will begin its descent at Winklebleck Street and then meet the elevation of the depressed Broadway, roughly 8 feet below existing grade. Now let's look at the typical sections. For California Street, we can see that the lane layouts, the parking, and sidewalks will be maintained, with potential for new developments on both sides. For Broadway, you will be looking east towards Aguelo Street from underneath the proposed structure, but this time you will see that the road is lowered nearly 17 feet. And when selecting this one, we will be standing south on the platforms looking towards Broadway. Again, we can see the rails and platforms elevated from Aguelo and Perry Street. Lastly, you have the ability to download to save this PDF so that you may view it later. When you're all done looking at this alternative, you can return to the alternative selection screen. The fourth icon takes you to an exhibit that shows a grade separation of Broadway for pedestrians and bikes only. This concept was developed to provide the city with an option for closing Broadway to motor vehicles and minimizing impacts to properties. A traffic analysis is currently being performed to determine the impacts of this closure. Over here on the left, this design would correspond to Brewster Alternative 3. The rail design is the same from the previous example, but Broadway would close to motor vehicles, as depicted with the red X, to identify access removed. But a 20-foot wide tunnel is provided under the tracks to maintain connectivity for pedestrians and bikes. The ADA accessible ramps are for people walking or with bikes and are shown in this reddish color. The ramp will begin its descent from the plaza area at the intersection of Broadway and Perry, and from the bus station. The 80-foot ramps would come down to form a single ramp, then make a left turn to proceed under the rail. After passing through the tunnel, pedestrians will then make a 90-degree right turn and will proceed south for 225 feet. The ramp will then meet up with the existing sidewalk on the south side of historic Broadway. Stairs are also provided on each side of the tunnel and are shown here in yellow. The closure will create a T intersection with Broadway at Perry Street and Broadway at Aguelo. The intersections will be restriped accordingly. All other roadway layouts will match what was previously shown for Alternative 3. Let's take a look at the sections. The first section is a longitudinal section through the tunnel looking north. You can see the stairways, the pedestrian path, and the tunnel, as well as the station platforms. The second one shows a section cut through the tunnel looking east, where we can see a 20-foot wide tunnel shown here, 8 feet high, with a max elevation, with a max height of 10 feet. Lastly, the ability to download this PDF by clicking on this icon so that you may view it later. Lastly, the fifth icon is for Alternative 4, which only grade separates Whipple Avenue, so the rail elevation will remain the same as it is today at Broadway. The station platforms, shown here in the blue, will be placed between Brewster Avenue and Broadway. Due to safety concerns of having a 4-track station at grade, Broadway will be closed between Perry Street and Aguelo Street, as shown by the red X's, which depict access removed. This will be closed to all modes of travel: motor vehicles, pedestrians, and bikes. The closure at Broadway will create the same lane configurations for the T intersections as shown in the previous example. Let's take a look at the typical section. Similar to the previous sections, you'll be looking south from the platforms towards Broadway. The section does not show any elevation difference. Rather, the rails, station platforms, Aguelo Street, and Perry Street will be side by side. With the station platforms at grade, there are challenges with platform access without having to have pedestrians cross the rails. Further details on the station access and pedestrian access will be developed in the next phase of work for this alternative. This concludes the Broadway alternatives. Thank you very much.